Hello, lovely people, and welcome to another episode of Parenthood. This is the space where we dive deep into the real, unfiltered experiences of parenthood. From the challenges to the triumphs, from finding balance to losing it altogether, we are here to remind you that you are not alone in your journey. Today's episode is one I have been especially looking forward to. Joining us is the incredible Sanghamitra Chakraborty, a seasoned independent writer and editor whose words have shaped many a narrative. But today, we are going beyond her professional achievements to uncover her journey as a parent and a partner. Sanghamitra has been with her partner of 22 years, Arunava Sinha, a renowned translator and academic. Together, they have raised Srijon, their 21-year-old son. Their story is one of the partnership, growth, and finding harmony despite differences. A relationship built on respect, friendship, and mutual support. We'll explore Sangamitra's parenting philosophy, her insights into co parenting, and how she has balanced her professional identity with her role as a mother. But before we dive in, let me just say how excited I am to have you with us today, Sangamitra. Welcome to Parenthood.
Neha, I'm equally excited. We've been talking about this for a while, and as you know, I've been a little concerned that, maybe that can become a topic in our conversation.
Yeah.
Whether I'm the parent that normally have on your show, people who are in active parenting, because my son is now in his master's.
Yeah.
Yes, he's an adult. And just to let you know that we've been married for 32 years, and
Wow.
Srijon will be 23. So,
Oh,
yeah.
oh, wow.
So,
You've been married for 32 years. I'm so
yes.
sorry for getting it wrong.
No, that's fine. Maybe I had, you know,
No, no,
I
but
was, uh, I just thought we should make it clear that I've been a veteran at being married.
uh,
And yeah, I mean, my concern has been that, I have a older
yeah.
offspring. I was about to say child, but he's an adult, and very often, I mean, so if you want to talk about the days when he was growing up, I'm happy to do that, and just shoot, let's talk
Yes,
about it. It's
yes,
one of
but
my favorite topics.
uh,
Talking.
I'm so glad. I am so glad. But before we get into you as a parent, let's get to know you a little better, Sangamitra. So, if you were to describe yourself in three words, what would they be and why?
I am a writer now.
Yeah.
I am someone who has grown up with a mother, and that is going to come up quite often here, who was a working and conscientious person. And I hope, I don't want to sound noble here, but I hope I am those two things as well.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And talking about your family, could you tell us something about them? Your relationship of 32 years is such a beautiful, beautiful milestone. How did you both meet, and how would you describe the dynamic you've cultivated over the years with Aruna?
Well, we also met over something which was not a happy situation. My brother's younger child had tragically passed away, and
Sorry.
there was negligence in part in on the part of the hospital in Calcutta. And Arunava was a journalist then, and uh, they used to bring out a city magazine, and he wanted to meet me through another friend because they were doing a cover story on hospitals. And you know how it is with hospitals, right? I mean, it's a minefield, and he wanted to meet, and I was not ready because it was very close to this tragedy that had suddenly struck us. But that's how we met, actually. And we became friends immediately because there are so many things that we have in common. And I think through our marriage and parenthood journey, I think that friendship is what has carried us through.
Yeah. And how's it now with both of you? Maybe is it an empty nest now with Srijon moving away?
Well, very much so. Particularly, I think I was hit harder
Yeah.
by the emptiness because this was around the same time that I stopped working.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not saying I would have forgotten that I would come back to a home where our child wasn't going to be there in his room when I returned from office. It's not just that. It was also, I was dealing with emptiness on different fronts.
Right.
There was another loss in the family. My brother had passed away, and therefore it was a time which was not very easy.
Mm.
Therefore, I think I was a little more sort of affected by it, and I had to actually seek help around that time. Uh, and Arunava also, of course, he went through his own journey as a father, but his time was far more sort of filled up with different
Yeah.
things at
Right.
the time. Therefore, he was on the surface, he coped better. But
Right.
I'm I'm not sure whether, it was any easier for him. It can't be.
Yeah. Yeah. And tell us about Srijon. How is he like? His personality, his traits, some of his quirks. How would you see him as a person?
Right. I am, as I said, this is my favorite topic. Being able to talk about your child, I think, is what everyone likes.
Yeah.
You know, even if you ask a Nobel laureate about their children, they'll be, they're in a puddle.
Yeah.
Uh, and they will be happy to talk about this. So I hope not to gush and also not to sort of think about the things that would irritate me and get sort of in a frame of mind which is not so pleasant.
Yeah.
So it's hard, actually. I think that is something that all of us parents share in common, that it's a hard thing to do with objectivity and
Yeah.
dispassionately.
Yeah.
So, but I will try my best. Our son Josh, he's Srijon for his friends and the rest of the world. He was a very somber child. When
Hmm.
he was tiny, even then, I mean, my heart would break when I would leave for work because of that face of his. Maybe
Oh,
he's having a good time, but it was still that face that just broke my heart. And he he's of course he's grown up to be an intelligent, witty person,
yeah.
and there are lots of other things that things that I appreciate about him. And one of the things, I mean, is that even when he was a child, like I said, he was somber, and he had this appearance of being sort of wiser than his age at any age, whether it was like 1.5 years or 8 years. So, and I was telling him this the other day, that I unfairly expected him to be mature.
Yeah.
Okay, because that is the impression you have even as a mother. I
Yeah.
knew, and mothers always think your child has never grown up. Your child will always be your child. But I think I'm guilty of this. I
Yeah.
have often expected him to sort of grasp, uh, work out things, understand what I'm telling him,
Yeah.
and retain it, and then sort of use that to respond in future always, which I think is very unfair on my part. But
Yeah.
I've already apologized to him a few times about it.
Has he
Uh,
forgiven you for that?
yes, he laughs about it. He laughs about it, and he will not give up any opportunity to sort of, uh, say that, oh, okay, but that's how I am, and that's how you are, and so on and so forth. But I have to tell you that, although he's fairly sharp, he's the king of repartees sometimes and everything. He's a kind child.
Oh,
Yeah. So he on the whole, I've never felt that he's getting back at any of us
right.
for what he has experienced. And I can tell you, when we talk about it, I mean, there are a few things that my heart breaks. I made huge mistakes when he was a little child. And, somehow you want to go back and say sorry.
Yeah.
But I don't get into long conversations about it. I
Yeah.
prefer to just give him a hug
Yeah.
uh, when I feel overwhelmed with those feelings.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling now that he's growing up, he understands a lot of it.
Yeah.
And he says that he's proud of everything that I have been involved in, done, and so on. So it's he makes it easy for me. He
Yeah.
makes it easy for me.
How beautiful is that? And what were the early years like for you and Arunava both? And how did you navigate the journey of parenting together?
Right. It, I mean, I don't think it's easy for anyone,
Yeah.
but for us, it was, I mean, here we're assuming that there's a certain degree of financial security, there's a certain degree of security as far as a home and other basic things. And we're very fortunate that those things were not um, a problem in our case. And also the privilege and what it immediately sort of comes with.
Right.
However, I must tell you that my parents were both gone by the time I had Josh. And in any case, my extended family, my brother and my sister in law were there, and they've never let me feel that, you know, um, my parents were not around. My brother was considerably older than me, and they kind of had our backs
Yeah.
throughout. Now, the problem was that we were not in the same city. First, we were in Bangalore, and then we moved back to Delhi. And my family and Arunava's family are in Calcutta.
Right.
So, there's always this thing that you obviously, when you have a family, uh, it's a, I think at the back of your mind, you feel secure.
Right.
Some or the other, that okay, there is someone to reach out to. So my initial struggles were very practical.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really have anyone to tell me what to expect. And I did read up a
Yeah.
lot, that series, What to Expect When You're Expecting, and what to expect in the first year, second year, blah blah blah. But a lot of that, it helped. This was the time when a lot of these online groups
Yeah.
had started coming up. So, but somehow it's different when your mother is next to you, or someone
Yeah.
who has a lot of affection for you, knows and understands you, who can sit by you and just keep their hand on your back.
Yeah.
That is all. You don't really need, because every child is different, every parenting journey is different. And uh, I just didn't have anyone to tell me that it's not always going to be like this. It's
Yeah.
going to, it's going to be. I. did do think that there was a little bit of a postpartum low that I went through. I
Yeah.
remember writing about it later in one of my editorials, I think, talking about parenting. Arunava had come back from the office and he found me sitting with Josh on my lap and Waterworks.
Oh,
So, and he kept asking me what was
wrong.
on, and I couldn't really respond. I just couldn't respond.
Yeah.
It was a combination of no sleep, physical discomfort, holding the baby and looking at it and thinking that, uh, oh my God, he's so tiny. Am I going to make a horrible mistake and something will go wrong? Um, and I had gone through a precious pregnancy. Precious pregnancy is,
Yeah.
I guess you know what it is. I started bleeding in the beginning and I was laid up. So it was all very, oh, are you moving again? Don't move from one side of the bed to the other. Don't turn around. I mean, everything was sort of uh, gearing me up
Yeah.
for something which was going to be a horrible eventuality. I mean,
Right.
so, even childbirth became a little bit of an, I was very anxious throughout, I think.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning. And then when we moved to Delhi, it was stupid. I mean, these are things that you should always listen to people who have experience. So we were moving from Bangalore to Delhi, and I should have really gone with the baby to Calcutta because the weather there is moderate. It was January, it was gloomy and cold.
Yeah.
Uh, Josh got a horrible cold and he started wheezing. He had to be taken to the hospital. So, lots of things that were extremely anxiety inducing.
Yeah.
But I think I started enjoying the process once we settled down here. And of course, I knew Delhi. There were lots of friends, there were people who I knew. That's when the good part started. And it lasted until it was time. In fact, my office was very, very considerate and thoughtful. Both my bosses were women, and
Yeah.
I cannot tell you, I still have not forgotten their support and how they stood by me
Yeah.
at the time. But the second phase of the struggle started when I went back to work.
Yeah. Yeah. Who was taking care of him then? You had hired help?
Yes, so that was the biggest concern.
Yeah.
There were people who were unreliable. I mean,
Yeah.
there were days that, firstly, I think leaving the child for the first time, I think it's kind of wrenching
Yeah.
completely. And
Yeah.
even now, every time your child leaves home
Yeah.
to to go back to, I mean, Josh lives far away and he takes a flight. It's You go through the same thing. It's pretty much the same thing, and that's why I feel that y- your emotions as a parent, I
Mhm.
think, many times I feel it's absolutely no different. Sometimes I feel the anxiety is greater because there's no sense of what is going on at the other
Yeah.
side.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, help was an issue. And the other thing was that, I mean, my boss had told me this. Um, my boss in Delhi was one who, she's no more. And she also was a big support. But my boss in Bombay, one day she pulled me aside and she said, listen, Shongo, you are not giving up your baby. Actually, I had been feeding for a long time.
Yeah.
And she was the one who kind of unveiled that truth to me, that I had been holding on to my baby and I should let him go. And
Yeah.
Because there were situations where, I mean, one particular evening when I used to work a little late on Fridays and Saturdays because
Yeah.
I used to work for the Sunday paper of Times of India, Sunday Times. And I suddenly find I was running between my desk to another room where the pages used to be made. That time it was sort
Yeah.
of physically done.
Yeah.
Uh, and I suddenly found Arunava coming into the office with a wailing child in his pajamas. Both of them were in their pajamas. And my first emotion was anger. Uh, I was like, the whole floor can see this.
Yeah.
But he had been, when I heard what had happened, I just couldn't process it. He was hungry,
Yeah.
and he was clutching at my uh, night clothes, and they had gone down to the park in the neighborhood. Arunava just couldn't handle him. He wouldn't stop wailing. And then he said, let's just get him there. And yeah, I mean, it's almost like a dramatic representation of, I mean, this could be in a movie with Nirupa Roy, sort of, welling up with tears and motherly emotions.
Yeah.
But yeah, this too has happened.
Yeah.
And there was another thing that happened that I've never forgiven myself for, which was that, when I used to leave home,
Yeah.
I I finally found people who were
Yeah.
uh, good. And then one person I'll be forever grateful to is our driver, Bharat ji. He's still with us. And
Oh.
Josh calls him Bharat Chacha. Yeah, yeah. He's been with us for 30 years now. So almost 28 years. And Bharat would hold him and the girls would feed him. And I would suddenly slip away.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay. And hoping that there won't be a scene. And I didn't want to, I don't know who I was doing it for.
Yeah.
I realized later that it was a very cruel thing I'm doing because my son, when he started speaking first, he told me this.
Oh my
He
God.
actually he actually said, "Don't run away." He
Wow.
said it in Bengali, and he basically told me, he didn't say don't run away. He tried to tell me that I should tell him when I'm leaving.
Yeah. How you said you expected him to be mature, but how mature of him?
Yes, yes, he was. He was. I cannot tell you what this conversation meant for me, what it did to me.
I'm having
I I was just, I haven't ever forgiven myself for what I did, because he said this in a way that made me think about this madness.
yeah.
And whoever has been, I mean, I've had, younger women. I've always worked with a lot of women, and I've shared some very wonderful relationships with my colleagues and teammates and so on. Uh, some of them are always closer to you than others, but I've tried to tell many of my young women friends to take care of this bit. I don't think this is a common experience, but
You don't
it
think
was
so? It is, I think.
this running away thing.
Yes, I think it's very, very common. That's how you go. That's how, I mean, we've been talking because I think in my network, we've been talking about it a lot.
Oh,
And everybody is because the child makes a scene and you don't want to deal with that. And most of the time, you are running late, you're not on time, or you're running against time. And you just want to go out of the house with not with a crying child, seeing a crying child's face. You want to see a happy child, involved child. And when the child is busy doing something, you just slip away. That's how we all have been doing it.
Yeah.
And I have been torn about it myself, but first of all, I don't leave house that much. I'm fortunate to be working from home always, but whenever I have to go, I think about it. And sometimes when he's in a good mood, I say bye and I leave, but sometimes I have to leave. So
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, I think it's not you should not be so harsh on yourself.
You know how it is, right? I mean, I was I was a slightly older mother,
Yeah.
but the reason I'm harsh also is because, just like you said, when I've thought about it, I've asked myself, why was I doing that? And I realized that I was doing it for me.
Yeah.
And that is selfish. That is selfish. And that is something that I've tried to compensate, obviously, but it was also a bit mindless.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking because, like, we all like to think that, you know, along with all the other qualities from our parents, all the best things, you also inherit some intelligence. And I was kind of very angry with myself that I did this, and my son had to tell me this. My little child had to tell me this. But then that became something that, you know, helped me. I didn't really have to read a parenting book
Right.
or listen to a parenting podcast to know that you learn from your child all the time.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
show you the way,
Yeah.
just as you do.
Yeah. And it's beautiful you say that, because I next question that I want to ask you is about yourself. How you see yourself or sense of self evolving after Josh came into your life?
Interesting question. I did have my child a little sort of late in the day. We had been married for what, 7 years or so, uh, and uh, it was sort of 8 years actually. Uh, there were lots of times that people asked me questions.
Yeah.
There were times that I mean, I would dread it if, say, I was taking the train or the flight and somebody would, strike up a conversation. And, typically there are situations where there are well meaning aunties who will sort of ask you why you haven't had your child. And then completely unself consciously, they would also ask who has the problem and so
Yeah.
on and so forth. So all that had been happening. So that was one part of it. But I don't think, because I live away from the family,
Yeah.
it was not a huge thing. Only when I was there that um this would happen a little bit. Otherwise, it wasn't really a big issue. And the other thing was that, um, you know, my desire so I was very keen first to adopt and then to, anyway, it didn't work out. Everything didn't work out the way that I wanted to. I used to be a volunteer at Mother Teresa's home, and that's what led me to the thought of becoming uh, an adopted mother. So, what changed was that I don't think because I was a busy journalist running around doing stuff, and then I went through a very difficult time with both my parents, being unwell and then passing away one after the other within a year. Um, it was quite overwhelming, and there was no sort of time to sit and mope about what my feelings were about
Right.
any of this. But I was happy when we finally decided to have a child, and I felt I became a better person. I became a more patient person. I could, I, I think when you are young, I was just talking to a cousin today that, I mean, I was telling her that we were idiots when we were young. I mean,
Aren't
when I
we
try
all?
to, so, it's the complete lack of self-awareness is what I'm talking about. I don't think you are lacking in empathy, kindness, or you're not well-meaning.
Yeah,
I like to think that we grew up in a setting where, we had a wonderful childhood, and I mean, there's no excuse for being daft
yeah,
as a 20-year-old. But then I think it's the nature of your age. I
yeah,
think that's what happens. It was I became a mother at a time where, like, I entered my mid 30s. I was 34, and when I eventually 35, when I had the child,
yeah,
I think I was a mature mother. I didn't have a child when I was in either my mid 20s or early 20s, which a lot of women in my generation did, actually.
yeah,
Okay, so I uh, it wasn't as though everything else before that was a haze.
yeah,
No, but I did get married fairly early, and we spent a long time sort of being a couple with
yeah,
no kid. And I later on I wondered, how did we spend our time?
yeah. What did you do? And you were so busy. And what were
Yeah.
you busy with?
Did you feel that way yourself?
Yeah, now I feel, what was I doing with my days? How did I ever get to say that I was busy?
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true. It's something that, so I think when you become a parent, I think it happens to both men and women. Uh, when you become a parent, I think immediately what happens is your empathy level sort of goes up several notches,
right.
because you're immediately able to feel the pain, see the point of view, uh, and feel either the joy or the happiness. And what immediately happened was that I was fighting with my husband about. We were fighting before that, but now we were fighting about the child.
Yeah.
So that didn't change, though the topic, we had
Yeah.
found a new thing.
To
And
fight about.
those, yeah, and then I would think about what was I thinking when I was fighting about, some stupid trivial matter,
Yeah.
which, and I don't know whether motherhood brings in a little more, some kind of you sort of expunge some of the dead cells from your brain.
Yeah.
Brain Nature is also trying to tell you that you need to protect your offspring. You
Right.
need to be careful. You're a protector. You're a feeder. You're all of this. I
Yeah.
think. I think I became a more intelligent person after less wrapped around myself,
Yeah.
far less worried about the way you looked. I'm not talking about the physical
Physical. Yeah.
aspect.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, it doesn't matter what anybody else will think, that you couldn't do this for them. You
Right.
you have to get your priorities right.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah, that sounds beautiful. And what you've been, because you've been talking so much about what you didn't do right. I want to ask you, what is the one thing that you think, which is a value or a life lesson that you have instilled in Josh, that you are truly, truly proud of, that this is what I have done?
Well, I think what I feel happiest about is he has a dil.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that is the beginning of everything, isn't it, Neha?
Yeah.
So I just feel that he feels deeply.
Mm-hmm.
He, I have seen him being moved by uh, situations where I too am moved.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that I feel that is, and there is this whole stereotype of a boy
Yeah.
versus a girl.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that of course he has his sort of, he doesn't want you to know that he's going through a hard time. He'll tell you later, or when they grow up, these things
Yeah.
happen. But because he has that dil, everything else flows from that. So the
Right.
his discipline, what he has taken up for his academics, to his career choice, to how he reacts to what is going on around him. I think it is that, and I think it's both Arunava and me that we've just very often, when you become older, you sort of uh, we are in this journey of protecting our own dil.
Right.
Yeah, that you don't want to be degraded. You
Yeah.
don't want to be, you don't want that violence to touch you,
Yeah.
whatever it is. I'm not talking about physical violence. I'm just saying what is going on around us. And sometimes what happens is you start feeling flat.
Yeah.
You start feeling as though, and this has happened to us over I think certainly the last decade. I think we've all been numbed,
Yes.
um, and we've actively kind of encouraged ourselves uh,
Do
to
not.
be to not feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the moment you feel deeply, the moment you let something touch you, uh, you kind of, you worry that you will crumble. You
Yeah.
will worry that you're not going to be, you'll be dysfunctional. You're not going to be able to do all the practical things that we are expected to do every day, and each day we wake up,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. So I just feel lucky that I feel his dil. I feel when he speaks about it, there is about, say, whether it's his friendships, or when he's angry about what he's seeing in the world,
Yeah.
or the big and small, wrongdoing or injustice that we see every day. I sort of quietly say, yes, yes.
How reassuring. I'm so happy about that. And you've mentioned that you and Arunava had differing approaches to parenting initially, but found common ground. Can you share more about those disagreements and how you worked through them?
Well, one of the things that I had a huge problem about were handing gadgets to our child.
Yeah.
And Arunava always felt that you cannot stop that.
Right.
So, and I was coming from a point of view of uh, sort of having read up, and also beyond the point, I was the editor of a health magazine for women. So there was a lot of material that I was sort of exposed to, that sort of led me to this belief more and more. So
Yeah.
this was a huge point of disagreement between us.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I don't know that. I mean, you either see the point of view or you don't. And I just felt that instead of taking a shortcut we should try and sort of replace the gadget with something else, which is so that kind of became it meant, giving a short TED talk to your husband and then
Yeah.
him. So that was, I don't think it was ever resolved,
Uh-huh.
because see, Arunava has always worked. I mean, just before Josh was born, he moved to the internet side of journalism.
Right.
Okay, so that was, I mean, it was very hard to sort of, tell him where I was coming from.
Yeah.
And I don't think we ever resolved it. In fact, the phone was given to the child way before I thought it should have been. And
Mm-hmm.
Arunava wanted my approval.
Approval.
Yes, as parents, we had to agree on it.
Yeah.
So, it was almost like, uh, uh, if I wasn't saying that it's okay, let's do this, I was being difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that. I can see that happening.
I don't know whether he's going to watch this, but he may have a point of view that, uh, I'll convey to you later.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's looking like the bad guy and insensitive and everything else. He
Yeah.
had a point of view. His point
Yeah.
of view has always been that, you cannot stop technology, you cannot whatever, but the anxiety
Yeah.
and the shrinking attention spans that come with uh, gadgets, looking at uh, I
Screen.
mean, initially it was television, then it became the iPad, and then there was a phone. And
Yeah.
initially it was an extra set of phone that Josh's father had, and then whatever. And I don't even remember the details now.
Yeah.
But frankly, I used to be in a funk about this.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I used to sometimes feel helpless because Josh has always been a very quiet child, and he was a reader. I have to tell you this. I mean, this is something that even when he was a very small child, he was always a reader. And there are lots of people who still tell me this. Very in the early days of us going to the Jaipur Literature Festival, there used to be a British Council
Yeah.
counter where there was a poof. And there are so many people we used to drop him there, he used to read book, and we used to just go around listening to panels, or going into the bookshop. Also, it was very crowded and dusty. I didn't want to take him everywhere. So a lot of people who knew Josh knew that,
You are
uh,
right.
yeah, yeah. And they still remember this sort of scene, that the little child who's barely able to sort of stand up is still reading a book.
Yeah. What a scene to, be a witness to. Yeah.
Yeah, but what was your question? I think I came.
No, but that's okay. I have got my answer sort of. But tell me about. I'll ask you an extended question. You and Arunava have built, I think, such a strong partnership over the years. Of course, there have been disagreements about the parenting philosophy and things. What's one moment where your bond as partners really carried you through to a very tough parenting challenge?
I think there have been others. I think the initial days that I'm talking about, I mean, because it's so far away, we should not discount it. But
Yeah.
I think those were days that were um, tough.
Yeah.
Uh, mm, and the other point was when this is sort of closer to now, the COVID times.
Yeah.
when Josh was supposed to leave for his college, but he couldn't, so he was kind of feeling trapped.
Yeah.
A lot of children went through this, and I spoke to a lot of Josh's friends, mothers, because we were kind of talking to each other. Everyone was feeling at a loss at that point, that what to do, what not to do. I think that was and what happened was he went first, he went off to France. And then we suddenly heard that they were going to close the borders. So he rushed back to India.
Yeah.
And then um, there was a little bit of it was a difficult time because he was going through some mental health issues, and then we later realized that it was a misdiagnosis.
Oh,
Yeah. So so that was, I mean, we've it's fine now and it all worked out well, but it was we went through a few difficult weeks and months because it was something that we were not sort of equal to the task, particularly because it needed an expert opinion, and we were not able to understand what was going on with him.
yeah.
And he was sort of um, he was not able to share. That was the thing with him. But I think we are all sort of, thankfully nobody has a stigma about
Yeah. This,
talking about any of this. And uh, Josh himself, I think he sort of took charge, and he he was the one who actually fixed the problem.
wow.
Yeah, but we are also very thankful to his therapists and all the people who helped him.
Yeah.
We came out of that difficult time.
Yeah. And tell me, Sanghamitra, that you've been talking so much about your mother and how big an influence she's been on your life. So, did you, in your parenting journey while raising Josh, did you find yourself borrowing from your own upbringing and your own childhood, or did you
All the
contribute
time.
all the
All the
time?
time. Yeah. Firstly, as I was saying, that when uh, I was at the crossroads, and I was trying to figure out whether I should give up my job because I couldn't get a good person. It was my brother who reminded me that we had a working mother who
Yeah,
left us every single day and went to work, and how proud we were of everything she did.
right.
So, I had kind of forgotten that. So, my brother is no longer with us, but I thanked him for reminding me that.
Yeah,
So there were good days and bad days. I remember that I still remember it myself, that there were days as a child when, say, I had fever,
yeah,
and I wouldn't ask her in the morning whether she was going to work or if she was not going to work. It was one of those things that if you didn't address it, you didn't ask, then it's not going to happen. But my mother also sort of had a job where, I mean, she had a field job, so she could often leave late.
yeah,
And then I would see that she's had her bath and now she's taking out her sari and she's now planning to go out.
yeah,
And my spirits would sort of. So I remembered this very clearly. And uh, it wasn't as though every time I was able to do it, but
right.
I tried to do what I could as a mother.
Yeah,
That is one thing. The other thing is that my mother, I mean, I think everyone noticed she was an extraordinarily gentle person,
mm-hmm.
loving, and all mothers are loving, but she was never harsh.
Yeah,
I think my nature was not exactly as like I was saying, when I was younger,
mm-hmm.
I had a lot more fire in me. So, but I used to kind of prompt and tell myself that, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
there were times that I was, I used to be very, very sort of careful about, uh, not riling her up,
Yeah.
not annoying her. I do remember, and the parenting at that time was that if she was annoyed with me, she would either not talk to me or she wouldn't eat. I mean,
Yeah.
which was a very cruel thing in hindsight. But uh, that was something that I never did. I never did that.
Yeah.
But I did, I was very firm with my son whenever, in fact, between the two of us, I've kind of consistently been the bad cop.
Yeah, I think mothers do tend to become that in some cases. I have seen most of the mothers being the good cops, but in some cases, I think the stronger the women, the badder the cops they are.
Yeah. And I think inevitably, I think a lot of mothers have this experience that we have to go and tell the father that, come on, you also sort of,
Fuck up.
because no, I mean, I want to be popular with the
Yeah,
child as well.
yeah, I want
Yeah.
to be a fun parent. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, so I think that too has happened. But I think on the whole, I've seen fathers can be completely unaware of what is going on.
yeah,
And women tend to sort of think through every little thing, notice every lapse,
yeah,
uh, sort of, again, collect into a puddle if there's the slightest
yeah,
gesture.
yeah,
So I think, um, like I was saying, that a little bit of moderation there would have helped.
yeah.
At that time, I'm talking about, uh,
Very, very early years, no?
yeah, or my early years as a mother.
Yeah.
Uh, but I don't know whether I screwed up very heavily. I have. I mean,
You
I
have,
like,
I don't think so.
I don't know, but yeah, I think we all do, and we all sort of, uh, hindsight is something that is a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah,
On the whole, I think it's good for everyone,
yeah,
including the hindsight that the child gathers
yeah,
when they're growing up.
yeah, yeah,
So my mother's way was something that was not. She was a very. I mean, she was a copybook mother. She was a working woman, but she looked after us. She looked after the family. She
yeah,
stretched herself quite a bit, and I think some of it came out while she was sort of upset with us, my
yeah,
brother and me.
yeah,
But she really stretched herself. I think that
yeah,
is something that. So I used to tell myself uh, to not be precious,
yeah,
and that it wasn't just my mother. I had seen far too many women in my family, around us, people, the staff, the didis who came to work with us. Everyone was going through the same journey.
yeah,
So
yeah. And
mm,
Sanghamitra, I want to ask you, as a writer, has parenthood ever influenced your creative work or perspective? Are there any moments from your parenting journey that you have found their way into your writing?
I have to be honest, I'm not a writer in the sense that so many other people are.
Yeah,
I've My first book is just about to come out, but I have written sort of as a journalist. So
yeah,
not so much as a writer. I've never written fiction,
yeah,
uh, not published fiction. I can't say I've never written fiction, but the thing is that I think for women and men, you are a sum total of all the pieces
Yeah.
of yourself, that you're so many different things. And I think in say the last 22 years,
Yeah.
uh, i've I've been, I mean, uh, my identity is very much linked to my family and my child, mainly my child. And I think it's inevitable that it kind of sort of casts its little,
Yeah.
there's a filter no
Yeah.
matter what you do. So it was, even when the work I was doing as an editor, health editor, I had a parenting column in the magazine very early on, even before anybody. This was 2006,
Yeah.
and I had approached Shelja Sen of Children First. She did a long playing column. She did it for as long as I was there, and a little longer. For over a decade, she was our parenting columnist. And I think everything that my work entailed, there was the mother in me inevitably kicked in. So,
Yeah.
in terms of column ideas, story ideas, what were we going to talk about? What were the things that we were hearing? All of that. When it comes to sort of the actual act of putting words to uh, paper or screen, I think it is something that, so I just did a biography of Soumitra Chatterjee, who's
Yeah.
an actor. And there were so many moments when, while talking about a film, while sort of having conversations about what kind of a father he was, and while talking about, the general family atmosphere and things that were going on within that home. Of course, this is something that I think you react to things in a that filter never goes away.
Yeah, yeah. And you've been talking so much about, your younger self, even though you became mother at that time, a late age. But if you could give advice to your younger pre-parent self, what would you go and say?
Calm down, firstly. I think that is something that, there were so many completely pointless worries that we carry around within us. The
Yeah,
kind of, we're anxious about things that, eh, eh, sort of, when you, much later, you can only laugh about.
yeah,
So, that is something. So, I've kind of made friends with one or two young ladies who are Josh's friends. One
uh-huh,
of them is almost like a godchild. She came and spent some time with us in the summer, and we became very good. We were almost like mother and daughter.
uh-huh,
And nobody told us this. And I also lost my mother before I became 30.
yeah,
So I didn't really have anyone to tell me uh, not to worry about things. I mean, I think, thinking about it, we all understand that what we think of as inconsequential right now
yeah,
was the most important thing then.
yeah,
Just having that, have having someone tell you this, that you'll be okay, you'll
yeah,
be fine,
yeah,
calm down, because this also happened to me.
yeah,
Okay, so that is the first thing. The other thing is that you're talking about before having the child or
yeah.
after.
Before having the child.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't think I was worrying so much about the body clock as the fact that we're both becoming very old, we should do something.
Yeah,
Okay. So the practical side of it. So I would tell myself that, you know, neither of us saved before. So my second tip would be that, and I see a lot of my young colleagues doing that, and at a very young age, I have seen women who have booked a flat
Hmm.
or, you know, uh, sort of gotten down to making small investments or
Yeah.
doing whatever makes sense to them. But rather than sitting there and fretting,
Yeah.
I think it's better to sort of, I mean, if you are going to start taking folate, you might as well sort of start some SIPs along the way.
I think that's brilliant advice. The moment you start taking folate, start SIPs. Yeah. I wish
So,
someone had told this to me.
same here. Same
Yeah.
here. My parents were also sort of very impractical people. They were, I mean, at heart, I think they were both poets and artists.
Yeah.
And I never had this advice from my parents ever. I mean, she would say, don't waste money.
Yeah.
But there are parents who push their children to do all these practical things,
Yeah.
which we never did. And I mean, we just sort of went out, had a good time, bought expensive gifts for our friends,
Yeah.
uh, invited people home, and many things that you have nothing to show for except having a very good time, which is very important.
Yeah.
But some of it could have been, it wouldn't have made a difference because we really don't know where that money has gone.
Yeah. And Sanghamitra, what's one thing you hope Srijan or Josh, as you call him, carries with him from his upbringing as he navigates adulthood?
Us, I hope.
Uh-huh.
Uh, this home.
Yeah.
Mm, because there are times that, in fact, last summer, it was the first time I went and actually spent some time with him in his house, in
Yeah.
his room. And very often, while talking about, I mean, when he refers to home, okay, there have been times when I assumed he was talking about this home and he was talking about the other home.
Yeah.
And it can be a moment of truth.
Yeah.
Uh, there is, I mean, there's no arguing that the home that you go back to every single day of the year, rather than just a month or a few
Yeah.
weeks in the year, is your home. But um, that is something that I hope he carries his home
Yeah.
within him too. We all do. I think no matter how far you travel, I mean, uh, when, say, I dream about the house where I grew up rather than the house we moved to later.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I just hope that this home is that dream house for him.
Oh, that's that's so sweet. That's just so I don't know. It's heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time. It's really beautiful.
That
And
is parenting, I think.
yeah, yeah. And on that note, how do you define success in parenting? Is it about the values your child carries forward, the relationship you share, or something else entirely?
I think, I think, you know, uh, the relationship and its enduring nature, the fact that you will always, I mean, I'm talking about me.
Yeah,
Whenever I eat something which I like, or there's a beautiful sort of sunset, or uh, I'm I've read a book which has moved me. Uh, there are any number of such moments in our life
yeah,
where you want, now, in the beginning, I used to sorely miss my parents, mainly my mother, because she was a traveler. She was a reader.
Yeah.
She was someone who would totally get, I mean, anything that I may have inherited by way of, a heart is
Yeah.
all from her.
Oh.
So, so I used to, there's a time in your life when you miss your parents. There's a time when you're in your life when you miss the person you've fallen in love with, when that
Yeah.
happens, that, oh, I wish she or he was here. And then there is a time in your life when, and that is this stage of my life, that no matter what I do, I mean, it's impossible for me to sort of make sure that I share each experience that I have been able to perceive and sort of thought precious.
Yeah.
Uh, it's impossible that I'll be able to share it with Josh.
Yeah.
But each time, without fail, I think, say, when I've tasted something good or I've made something good myself. I mean, I cook sometimes. Uh, I inevitably I'm going to make this when Josh comes, or
Uh,
I'm going to bring Josh for this meal, or I go to Shantiniketan and during the Bengal Biennale, and there were so many such moments, and I came back and I said, okay, 2026. Uh, Maybe I should tell him from before, and if he can come, and there'll be. I mean, as a parent, you'll think about this, plan, um, fantasize.
yeah.
But I mean, it's a moment's conversation with the offspring, and they'll say, oh, 2026 May, I am doing something else. And that's that. And all you have to do is brace up, tell yourself and tell your friends who are going through this phase that it's all right. Again, I tell myself, calm down.
Yeah.
Don't let the waterworks flow. Don't feel that, lump in your throat for too long.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah. Yeah. And now to wrap it all up, if you could encapsulate your parenting philosophy into a single sentence or insight, what would that be so that our listeners can take back something?
This is again, I wish I could say it in a sentence, but for this, I'm falling back on another lesson that I've learned from my very wise son. I had once told him, and I think uh, I was trying to get something out of him, right? I wanted to know something. And I
Yeah.
thought I was being very clever. And I said, come on, Josh, we're friends, this, that, the other. And he looked at me and he said, no, you're my parent.
Hmm.
Okay. So I think that is a truth that I have carried with me. I mean, this is something that we hear all the time, whether as parents, are we friends? Are we
Yeah.
authority figures? Are we this or we that? But I think our children at the end of the day, they want us to be parents.
Yeah.
Okay. So I in a sentence, I want to be his parent. I want to, as a parent, I will always be his parent.
Yeah.
And I want to be that person so that uh, you know I can be that tree under which he can come and rest, the harbor and shelter where he will not worry about breaking down and sort of saying that I made a mistake or I screwed up, uh, or the Nirupa Roy, Mother India figure that we all have grown up with. And as I said, I like cooking. I like cooking for the family. I like cooking for my son. And Um, I mean, I serve something to him, and I look at his face to gauge what it means for him. And sometimes
It
it
doesn't.
means nothing,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely no movement, unmoved. Sometimes there's a casual, oh, this is good, this is nice. So, for which you wait all year.
Yeah.
But I never tell myself, don't be that mother. Because this is who I am, along with, you know, uh, a feminist, a
Hmm.
writer,
Hmm.
a person who is capable of critical thinking and objectivity. I'm also someone who feels waves of emotion
Yeah.
and sort of unlimited love,
Yeah.
unlimited impatience and anger.
Yeah.
So I feel I want to be a parent, that parent who has the responsibilities. I will also say that I want to be responsible. And if there is a time that he needs to be responsible, he needs to know that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be that person who will tell him to, because if grows up as a caring husband, a responsible employee, uh, a civic minded citizen, all of this,
Yeah.
I think it flows from what we were talking about. And that also means, I mean, it's hard to say you look after me,
Yeah.
but I often tell him that, say, if his father needs to be told something, or, there's a little bit of nudging required,
Yeah.
I do that. And I do that without hesitation. That what will he'll mind, he'll think. I think too many times we also, because of, you know, we're also walking on eggshells quite
Yeah.
often.
Yeah.
So I think I'd like to be a little less self-conscious.
Mm-hmm.
While empathy is important, but it's also important to sort of tell your child the stories of your family, the stories of how we grew up, if there were challenges, if
Yeah.
there are financial challenges. I mean, not for insecurity or asking for help, but
Yeah.
they should know as they grow up. This is
Right.
not for very young children, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's only for children when they are growing up, and there may be family secrets that are not relevant for
Yeah.
their upbringing. That
Yeah.
was a long thing. That wasn't a single
No,
line.
but it was very, very meaningful, and I think I don't know about our listeners. That's secondary, but I am taking a lot away from this conversation. This has been such an enriching conversation. Thank you for sharing your story with such honesty and warmth. And I'm so sure that your journey as a parent is as thoughtful and intentional as has been your professional journey. And I think you should be really less harsh on yourself. It's painful to see how harsh you are on yourself. It's mm,
I
yeah.
think that's a mother for you.
Yeah.
But I was, thank you for sort of provoking me to, you know, talk about these things. I haven't spoken about these things in a while now.
Yeah.
And I hope it touches your listeners in some way, builds some kind of connection and resonance. And if they're able to sort of, even if it means that they're able to console themselves,
Yeah.
because, as mothers, we are often unconsoled. And that is where we have to hold on to each other and move forward.
Huh. How beautiful, how beautiful. And to everyone listening, thank you for tuning into Parenthood. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to share it with a friend who might need some extra encouragement. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any of our conversation with other amazing parents. Until next time, keep embracing the ups and downs, and remember, you're not alone on this journey. This is Neha Garg signing off from Parenthood. Take care, everyone.